Pretend to be our dad, please. Two 5-year-old girls whispered those words to a stranger in a cafe. He was about to say no, but then he saw her, the woman he loved 6 years ago, the woman who vanished without a word. She froze. Their eyes locked, and in that single devastating moment, he understood. The girls looked exactly like him. She had been pregnant. She had run. She had hidden his daughters from him for 6 years. Now, everything he built, his empire, his control, his carefully guarded heart, was about to shatter because the only woman he ever loved just walked back into his life, and she brought his children with her. The cafe was nearly empty. Min-seok preferred it that way. Silence gave him control. Control gave him power. And power was all he had left after she disappeared. He sat alone by the window, tea untouched, watching the rain blur the city outside. His guards waited in the black SUV across the street. They always did. He never felt unsafe. He was the danger. But then, Señor, por favor, a tiny voice. He didn't look up. Children didn't approach men like him. They sensed the cold. Please, pretend to be our dad. Now he looked. 2 little girls stood beside his table. Identical, maybe 5 years old. Dark curls framing delicate faces, wide eyes, terrified but determined. One held the other's hand so tightly her knuckles were pale. They were shaking. Min-seok's jaw tightened. He didn't do this. He didn't play family. He didn't pretend. Go find your real father, he said quietly, his voice low and firm. The girl on the left, bolder, braver, shook her head fast. We can't. She's coming. Please, just for a minute. Who's coming? But before they could answer, the door chimed. A woman stepped inside, and Min-seok's world stopped. She was drenched, hair wild from the rain, breathing hard like she'd been running. Her eyes scanned the cafe, frantic, searching, and then she saw him. She froze. He couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't think. Amara. 6 years? 6 years since she walked out of his life without a word, without a reason, without a goodbye. 6 years since he woke up to an empty bed and a silence so loud it nearly destroyed him. And now she was here, standing 10 feet away, staring at him like she'd seen a ghost. The girls pressed closer to Min-seok's legs, still holding each other, still trembling. Amara's gaze dropped to them. Her face went pale. Min-seok looked down at the twins. Really looked. Dark hair, soft brown skin, delicate noses. But their eyes, his eyes, sharp, almond-shaped. The exact shade of deep brown that stared back at him in the mirror every morning. His heart slammed against his ribs. No, no. He looked back at Amara. She was crying now, silent tears streaming down her face, her hand pressed to her mouth like she was holding back a scream. Min-seok, she whispered. He stood slowly. The chair scraped against the floor. The sound echoed in the quiet cafe. These are my daughters. His voice was flat, controlled, but inside, he was burning. She nodded, barely. A broken, trembling movement. The little girl who had spoken first looked up at him, confused. You really are our dad? He didn't answer. He couldn't. Because he didn't know how to tell a 5-year-old that yes, he was her father. And no, he'd never even known she existed. Amara stepped forward, hands shaking. Min-seok, I can explain. Not here. His tone was ice. She flinched. He crouched down in front of the girls, his expression softening. Just slightly. Just enough. What are your names? The bolder one answered first. I'm Hana. The quieter one whispered. I'm Mira. Hana and Mira, his daughters. He exhaled slowly, then stood and looked at Amara. My car. Now. She nodded, reaching for the girl's hands. But Hana pulled away and took Min-seok's hand instead. He stared down at the small fingers wrapped around his. Something cracked inside him. Something he thought was already broken. They sat in the back of the SUV. The driver didn't ask questions. He never did. The girls were quiet now, pressed against Amara, watching Min-seok like they weren't sure if he was safe. He wasn't. Not really. But he would be. For them. Why? His voice was steady, but his hands were clenched into fists on his lap. Why did you run? Amara's eyes filled with fresh tears. Because I was pregnant. And you were him. The man everyone feared. The man who lived in a world I couldn't survive in. So you took my children and ran. I took our children and protected them. Her voice shook, but there was steel beneath it. You think I wanted to raise them alone? You think I didn't cry every night wishing you were there? Then why didn't you tell me? Because I was terrified. She covered her face with her hands, sobbing now. I was terrified that if I stayed, they'd grow up in danger. That someone would hurt them to hurt you. That they'd see things no child should see. Min-seok's jaw worked. She wasn't wrong. His world was violence wrapped in silk, power built on fear. But she had still stolen 6 years from him. 6 years of bedtime stories, first words, first steps, 6 years of being a father. "You don't get to decide that for me," he said quietly, dangerously. "You don't get to take my children and disappear." "I know," her voice cracked. "I know, but I did what I thought was right." Hannah looked up at him, her small face serious. "Are you mad at Mommy?" He looked into those eyes, his eyes, and felt the rage drain out of him. He was furious, betrayed, broken, but he was also a father now, and that changed everything. "No, Hannah," he said softly. "I'm not mad." He was lying, but it was the kind of lie that kept the world from falling apart. Min-seok's penthouse overlooked the city like a throne overlooking a kingdom, floor-to-ceiling windows, marble floors. Silence so thick it felt like armor. Amara stood in the middle of it, holding Mira's hand, looking small and out of place. Hannah had already wandered to the window, pressing her nose against the glass. "Mommy, we're so high up." "Hannah, don't touch," Amara started, but Min-seok raised a hand. "Let her." Amara's eyes met his. There was something fragile in her expression, something that looked like hope. He looked away. One of his men, June, his head of security, stood near the door, arms crossed, watching the scene with barely concealed confusion. Min-seok had never brought anyone here, especially not women, especially not children. "June," Min-seok said quietly, "make sure the guest rooms are prepared. 2 beds, child safe." June blinked. "Sir?" "Do it." June nodded and left without another word. Amara exhaled shakily. "Min-seok, we can't stay here." "You can. You will." His tone left no room for argument. "Until we figure this out." "Figure what out?" "Everything." He turned to face her fully now, his expression unreadable. "You disappeared for 6 years, Amara. You kept my daughters from me. You think I'm just going to let you walk away again?" Her face went pale. "I'm not your prisoner." "No." His voice softened, just barely. "You're the mother of my children. That makes you untouchable, protected. But it also means you don't leave until I say so." She opened her mouth to argue, but Mira tugged on her hand. "Mommy, I'm hungry." Min-seok's expression shifted instantly. He crouched down in front of Mira, his voice gentler than Amara had ever heard it. "What do you like to eat?" Mira shrank back shyly, hiding behind Amara's leg. Hannah answered for her. "She likes pancakes. With strawberries." "Then we'll get pancakes." He stood and pulled out his phone, sending a quick text. "They'll be here in 20 minutes. Amara stared at him. You're really doing this." "What did you expect?" He met her gaze, and for the first time, she saw the hurt beneath the ice. "You thought I wouldn't want them? I thought you'd see them as a weakness." His jaw tightened. "They're not a weakness. They're everything." The words hung in the air between them, raw and unguarded. Hannah ran over and grabbed Min-seok's hand. "Can we watch a movie?" He looked down at her, and something in his chest twisted. This little girl, his daughter, trusted him already. She didn't know who he was, what he'd done, the blood on his hands. She just saw a father. "Yeah," he said quietly. "We can watch a movie." Later, after the pancakes and the movie, after Hannah and Mira had fallen asleep in the guest room, Min-seok and Amara sat across from each other in the living room. The silence was suffocating. "I didn't know what else to do," Amara said finally, her voice barely above a whisper. "When I found out I was pregnant, I was terrified. Not of you, of your world. You should have told me. I tried." Her eyes filled with tears. "I tried so many times, but every time I opened my mouth, I saw the look in your eyes when you talked about your enemies. The way you carried a gun like it was part of you. The way people feared you. And you feared me too." "No." She shook her head fiercely. "I loved you, but I couldn't raise our daughters in a world where love wasn't enough to keep them safe." Min-seok leaned forward, his elbows on his knees, his hands clasped together. "Do you have any idea what it did to me when you left?" She looked away. "I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't give me back 6 years." "I know." Her voice broke. "I know, Min-seok, but I can't undo it. All I can do is tell you that I did what I thought was best for them. And now?" He looked at her, his eyes dark and unreadable. "What's best for them now?" She met his gaze, and for the first time, she saw the man she used to love beneath the armor. "I don't know," she whispered. He stood, walking to the window, his silhouette sharp against the city lights. "They're my daughters. That means they're under my protection. No one touches them. No one threatens them. No one even looks at them wrong. Min-seok, I mean it, Amara." He turned back to her and his voice was steel. "You ran because you thought I couldn't keep them safe. But you're wrong. I'm the most dangerous man in this city, and that means they're the safest children alive." She wanted to argue, wanted to tell him that danger didn't make safety. But looking at him now, at the way his hands were clenched, the way his jaw was set, the way his entire being radiated lethal protection, she realized something. He meant every word. And maybe, just maybe, she'd been wrong to run. 3 days passed. 3 days of Hana climbing into Minsuk's lap while he worked. 3 days of Mira shyly asking if he'd read her a bedtime story. 3 days of Amara watching him become a father right before her eyes. And it was breaking her, because she'd spent 6 years telling herself she made the right choice. But watching him brush Hana's hair with careful, unpracticed hands, watching him carry Mira to bed when she fell asleep on the couch, watching him try, she wasn't sure anymore. "You're good with them," she said one evening, standing in the doorway of the guest room. Minsuk was sitting on the edge of Mira's bed, reading The Very Hungry Caterpillar in a low, soothing voice. Mira's eyes were already closing. He glanced up at Amara, then back at the book. "I'm learning. They love you already." He didn't respond. Just finished the story, tucked the blanket around Mira's small shoulders, and stood. They walked out into the hallway together, and he closed the door softly behind them. "Do you regret it?" he asked suddenly. She looked at him, confused. "Regret what?" "Leaving." The question hung between them, heavy and sharp. Amara swallowed hard. "I regret that you missed so much, but I don't regret keeping them safe. They were always safe with me." "Were they?" Her voice rose slightly, frustration bleeding through. "Minsuk, you live in a world where people die for looking at you wrong, where loyalty is bought with fear, where I would burn the entire city down before I let anyone touch them." His voice was quiet, deadly. "You don't understand what it means to be mine, Amara, but you will." She took a step back. "I'm not yours." His eyes darkened. "You were, once. That was 6 years ago, and yet you're still here." She wanted to argue, wanted to tell him she was only staying for the girls. But the truth was more complicated. Because standing this close to him, feeling the pull of his gravity, she remembered what it felt like to be loved by him, and it terrified her. Minsuk's phone buzzed. He pulled it out, read the message, and his entire expression shifted. Cold, hard, dangerous. "What is it?" Amara asked, her stomach twisting. "Trouble." He typed a quick response, then looked at June, who had appeared silently in the hallway. "Double security on the girls. No one in or out without my approval." June nodded and disappeared. Amara grabbed Minsuk's arm. "What kind of trouble?" He looked down at her hand on his arm, then back at her face. "The kind that doesn't concern you. They're my daughters. And they're my daughters too." His voice was firm, but not unkind. "Which means I handle the threats. You stay here, you keep them safe, you trust me. I don't, then learn." He pulled his arm free gently and headed for the elevator. "June will stay with you. Don't leave the penthouse." Minsuk. The elevator doors closed, and he was gone. Amara didn't sleep that night. She sat in the living room, staring at the city lights, her mind racing. What had she done? She'd brought her daughters into his world, the exact world she'd run from. But watching him with them, watching the way he softened, the way he tried, the way he looked at them like they were the only thing that mattered, she couldn't deny it anymore. He loved them. Maybe he even still loved her. And that was the most dangerous thing of all. Because love in his world didn't mean safety. It meant war. The sun was rising when Minsuk finally returned. He walked into the penthouse, blood on his knuckles, his shirt torn, his face unreadable. Amara stood immediately. "Are you hurt?" "No." "What happened?" "It's handled." He walked past her toward the bathroom, but she grabbed his arm. "Minsuk, talk to me." He stopped, turned, looked at her with eyes that had seen too much. "Someone tried to use the girls to get to me," he said quietly. "They won't try again." Her blood ran cold. "How did they even know?" "Because you showed up." His voice wasn't accusing, just factual. "Someone saw you, saw them, and they thought they could use it." Tears filled her eyes. "This is exactly what I was afraid of." "I know." He reached up and brushed a tear from her cheek, his touch surprisingly gentle. "But they're safe now. I made sure of it." "How?" He didn't answer, and she realized she didn't want to know. "This is my fault," she whispered. "I brought them here, and now they're protected." He cupped her face with both hands, forcing her to look at him. "Amara, listen to me. The moment you walked into that cafe, everything changed. I can't undo the past. I can't get back the 6 years I lost. But I can make sure they never have to be afraid again. And what about me?" Her voice broke. "Am I supposed to just trust you? Just believe that you can keep them safe when your entire life is built on violence?" His jaw tightened. "Yes. That's not enough. Then what is?" His voice rose slightly, frustration bleeding through. "What do you want from me, Amara? You want me to walk away from everything I've built? You want me to pretend I'm not who I am?" I want you to choose them over your empire. The words hung in the air, sharp and final. Min-seok's hands dropped from her face. He took a step back, and for the first time she saw something crack in his expression. You think I haven't already? He said quietly. Then he turned and walked away, leaving her standing alone in the golden light of dawn, realizing she might have just broken the one man who would have given her everything. The next morning, Min-seok didn't come out of his office. Amara stood outside the door twice, her hand raised to knock, but she couldn't bring herself to do it. What would she even say? I'm sorry for asking you to choose. I'm sorry for not trusting you. I'm sorry for running 6 years ago and destroying everything we could have been. She dropped her hand and walked away. Hana found her in the kitchen, looking lost. Mommy, where's our dad? Our dad. The words hit Amara like a punch to the chest. He's working, baby. Can we see him? Not right now. Hana's face fell. Did we do something wrong? No. Amara knelt down and pulled her daughter into a hug. No, sweetheart, you didn't do anything wrong. He's just busy. But Hana didn't look convinced. And honestly, neither was Amara. It was June who finally broke the silence. He appeared in the kitchen while Amara was making lunch, his expression unreadable. He wants to see the girls. Amara looked up sharply. Now? Now? She hesitated. Is he okay? June's jaw tightened slightly. He's Min-seok. He's never okay. But he's functional. It wasn't reassuring, but Amara gathered Hana and Mira anyway and led them down the long hallway to Min-seok's office. She knocked softly. Come in. His voice was flat, empty. She pushed the door open. Min-seok sat behind his desk, papers scattered in front of him, his expression carved from stone. But when Hana and Mira ran toward him, his entire face softened. Hey, he said quietly, crouching down to their level. Hana threw her arms around his neck. We missed you. Mira nodded shyly, standing close but not quite touching. Min-seok's eyes closed briefly, like he was trying to memorize the feeling of Hana's small arms around him. I missed you too, he murmured.
안녕, 여러분. Before you continue, if this story touched something in you, you should know I didn't tell everything yet. The complete version has 20 full audio episodes. No interruptions, no ads. Just the story, the emotions, and the moments I couldn't fit in here. If you scan the QR code on your screen, or tap the link in the pinned comment to continue listening right now.
Amara stood in the doorway, watching, her throat tight. He looked up at her, and for a moment, their eyes met. There was something raw in his, something that looked like regret, but he didn't say anything. He just turned his attention back to the girls, asking them about their morning, listening to Hana chatter about the cartoon they'd watched, smiling softly when Mira whispered that she'd drawn him a picture. It was the most normal thing Amara had seen in days, and it broke her heart. That night, after the girls were asleep, Amara found Min-seok standing on the balcony, staring out at the city. She almost turned around, almost left him alone, but she couldn't. I shouldn't have said that, she said quietly, stepping outside. He didn't look at her. Said what? That you needed to choose them over your empire. His hands gripped the railing. You were right. No, I wasn't. She moved closer until she was standing beside him. I was scared. I'm still scared. But that doesn't mean you have to give up everything you are. And what am I, Amara? He finally turned to look at her, and his eyes were dark, haunted. I'm a criminal, a killer, the kind of man mothers warn their daughters about. You're also their father. That doesn't erase what I've done. No. But it means you have a chance to be something more. She reached out and touched his arm gently. They don't see the monster, Min-seok. They see the man who reads them bedtime stories, the man who makes them pancakes, the man who looks at them like they're the most important thing in the world. His jaw worked. And what do you see? She looked at him, really looked at him, and realized the answer was more complicated than she wanted to admit. I see the man I fell in love with 6 years ago, she said softly. And I see the man I was too afraid to stay with. Are you still afraid? Terrified. He exhaled slowly. Good. You should be. Why? Because I'm not letting you go this time. His voice was low, firm. You can hate me for it. You can fight me. But you're not leaving. Not with my daughters. Not ever. Her breath caught. Min-seok, I mean it, Amara. He turned to face her fully now, and the intensity in his eyes was overwhelming. 6 years ago, I let you walk away because I didn't know what I was losing. But now I know exactly what's at stake, and I will do whatever it takes to keep you here. That's not love. That's control. Maybe. His voice softened just slightly. But it's also the only way I know how to protect what's mine. She wanted to argue, wanted to tell him she wasn't his to protect. But the truth was, part of her wanted exactly that, Part of her wanted to stop running, stop fighting, stop pretending she could do this alone. I don't know if I can do this, she whispered. Then don't. He reached up and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, his touch achingly gentle. Don't think, don't plan, just stay. For them, for me, for us. There is no us, Minseok. There could be. And the way he said it, quiet, hopeful, vulnerable, made her want to believe him. The next few days were different. Minseok still worked long hours, still disappeared into his office for meetings she wasn't allowed to know about. But he also made time. Time for breakfast with the girls. Time to take them to the park, surrounded by guards but still. Time to sit with Amara in the evenings, not talking, just being. It was almost normal. Almost. Until the night, everything fell apart. Amara woke to the sound of shouting. She bolted upright, her heart racing, and ran to the girls' room. Empty. Panic clawed at her chest. Hana! Mira! She sprinted down the hallway barefoot, her mind spiraling, and then she saw them. In the living room, safe, sitting on the couch with June standing guard in front of them. Minseok was across the room, his phone pressed to his ear, his voice cold and deadly. I don't care what it takes. Find him. And when you do, make sure he understands what happens when someone threatens my family. He hung up and turned, his eyes locking on Amara. What happened? She demanded, her voice shaking. Someone got too close. His expression was unreadable. They won't again. Too close to what? To them. He nodded toward Hana and Mira, who were watching with wide, scared eyes. Amara's stomach dropped. Oh my God. They're fine. Minseok crossed the room and crouched in front of the girls, his voice softening instantly. You're okay, I promise. No one's going to hurt you. Hana nodded, but Mira started to cry. Minseok pulled her into his arms, holding her close, murmuring soft reassurances in Korean, and Amara realized, with a sickening clarity, that this was her fault. She had brought them here. She had walked them straight into danger. Later, after the girls were finally asleep again, Amara confronted Minseok in his office. This is exactly what I was afraid of. He looked up from his desk, his expression tired. I know. So what now? We just wait for the next threat? The next attack? No. He stood walking around the desk to face her. Now I eliminate the threat permanently. And what does that mean? He didn't answer. She grabbed his arm. Minseok, what does that mean? It means I do what I've always done. His voice was cold, detached. I remind people why they fear me. By killing someone? His silence was answer enough. Amara took a step back, shaking her head. I can't do this. I can't raise them in a world where violence is the answer to everything. Then what's your solution? His voice rose, frustration bleeding through. You want me to just let people threaten my daughters? You want me to sit back and hope they're safe? I want you to find another way. There is no other way. He slammed his hand on the desk and she flinched. This is who I am, Amara. This is the world I live in. And like it or not, you're part of it now. Tears streamed down her face. Then maybe I shouldn't be. The words hung in the air, sharp and final. Minseok's expression shuddered. What are you saying? I'm saying maybe I need to take the girls and leave. No. His voice was flat, final. You're not leaving. You can't stop me. Yes, I can. He moved closer, his presence overwhelming. And I will. Because those girls need their father. And whether you want to admit it or not, you need me too. I don't. You do. His voice softened and he reached up to cup her face. You're scared. I get it. But running won't keep them safe. It'll just make them targets without protection. She wanted to argue, wanted to pull away, but she couldn't, because he was right. And that terrified her more than anything else. The tension in the penthouse was unbearable. Minseok left early the next morning without saying goodbye. Amara heard the elevator doors close and knew he was gone. She sat at the kitchen table, coffee untouched, staring at nothing. Hana climbed into her lap. Mommy, why are you sad? Amara forced a smile. I'm not sad, baby. Yes, you are. You have your sad face. Out of the mouths of babes. Mira appeared in the doorway, holding her stuffed bunny. Is Dad coming back? Of course he is. But even as she said it, Amara wasn't sure. Minseok didn't come home that night, or the next. June assured her everything was fine. He's handling business. He'll be back soon. But soon turned into 3 days. 3 days of Hana asking where he was. 3 days of Mira crying herself to sleep. 3 days of Amara pacing the penthouse, her mind spiraling with worst-case scenarios. What if something had happened to him? What if he'd been hurt? What if he wasn't coming back? And then, on the 4th day, the elevator doors opened. Minseok walked in. He looked exhausted, shadows under his eyes, stubble on his jaw, his shirt wrinkled, but he was alive. Hana and Mira ran to him immediately, throwing their arms around his legs. "Dad, you're back!" He crouched down and pulled them both into a tight hug, closing his eyes like he was trying to memorize the feeling. "I'm sorry," he murmured. "I'm so sorry." Amara stood frozen in the doorway, her heart pounding. When he finally stood and looked at her, there was something different in his eyes, something that looked like surrender. After the girls were in bed, Min-seok found Amara on the balcony. She didn't turn around when he stepped outside. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "For what? Disappearing? Scaring your daughters? Or proving me right?" He flinched. "All of it." She finally turned to face him and her eyes were red from crying. "Where were you? Ending the threat. Did you—" She couldn't finish the sentence. "No." His voice was firm. "I didn't kill anyone. But I made it very clear what would happen if they ever came near you or the girls again." She exhaled shakily. "And they believed you? They don't have a choice." Silence stretched between them. "I can't keep doing this," Amara said finally, her voice breaking. "I can't keep living in fear, wondering if today's the day something happens. Wondering if you're coming home." "I know." He moved closer, until they were standing just inches apart. "And I can't keep asking you to." Her heart stopped. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying you were right." His voice was raw, honest. "You asked me to choose, and I did. I choose them. I choose you. But that means I have to change. Min-seok, I'm stepping back." The words came out like they physically hurt him. From the business. From the empire. "Not completely. I can't just walk away without consequences. But enough. Enough that the girls aren't in danger. Enough that you can breathe." Tears streamed down her face. "You can't do that. It's your entire life." "No." He reached up and cupped her face gently. "You're my life. They're my life. Everything else is just noise." She wanted to believe him. God, she wanted to believe him. "What if you regret it?" she whispered. "I won't." "What if you resent me for it?" "Impossible." His thumb brushed away her tears. "Amara, I spent 6 years empty. 6 years wondering what happened to you. 6 years trying to fill the void you left. And nothing worked. Because the only thing that ever mattered was you." Her breath hitched. "Min-seok, I love you." The words were quiet, simple, but they hit like a freight train. "I never stopped, and I know I don't deserve another chance. I know you have every right to take the girls and run, but I'm asking you, begging you to stay, to let me prove that I can be the man you need, the father they deserve." She couldn't speak, couldn't breathe. "Please," he whispered. And for the first time in 6 years, Amara let herself hope. "Okay," she said softly. His eyes widened. "Okay?" "Okay." She nodded, tears streaming down her face. "But if you disappear for 4 days again without warning, I'm taking the girls to Bora Bora and you'll never find us." A surprised laugh escaped him. "Deal." And then he kissed her. Soft, tentative, like he was afraid she might disappear again. But she didn't. She kissed him back, her hands fisting in his shirt. 6 years of longing and regret and hope pouring into that single moment. When they finally pulled apart, he rested his forehead against hers. "I'm going to mess this up," he murmured. "Probably. And you're going to get frustrated with me. Definitely. But I'm not giving up on us." "Good." She smiled through her tears. "Because neither am I." The next few weeks were a revelation. Min-seok kept his word. He stepped back, delegated, put boundaries in place. He was still powerful, still respected, and feared. But he was also present. He took Hana to her first day of kindergarten and almost cried when she waved goodbye at the door. He taught Mira how to ride a bike in the park, running beside her with his hand on the seat, his entire face lit up with pride when she finally got it. He cooked dinner with Amara, the two of them laughing when he burned the rice and insisting it was supposed to be crispy. He was learning how to be a father, and Amara was falling in love with him all over again. One night, after the girls were asleep, they sat together on the couch, her head on his shoulder, his arm around her waist. "I never thought I'd have this," he said quietly. "Have what?" "Peace." He looked down at her, his expression soft. "I spent my whole life chasing power, respect, control, and I thought that was enough. But it wasn't. It was never enough." She intertwined her fingers with his. "And now? Now I have everything." He brought her hand to his lips and pressed a soft kiss to her knuckles. "I have you. I have them. I have a reason to wake up every morning that isn't built on fear or violence or rage. You make it sound like we saved you. You did." His voice was steady, certain. "I was drowning, Amara, and you gave me air." She looked up at him, her heart full. "I love you." He froze. "What?" "I love you," she repeated, smiling through tears. "I tried not to. I tried to keep my walls up, but you broke through them anyway. You stubborn, impossible, beautiful man. He kissed her then, deep and desperate and full of 6 years of longing. And when they finally pulled apart, he whispered against her lips, "Marry me." She blinked. "What?" "Marry me." He pulled back just enough to look into her eyes. "I know it's fast. I know we're still figuring this out, but I don't want to waste any more time. I want to be your husband. I want the girls to have my name. I want us to be a real family." Amara's mind was spinning. "Min-seok, you don't have to answer now." He kissed her forehead gently. "Just think about it, please." She nodded, her heart racing, but deep down, she already knew her answer. Everything was perfect. Too perfect. Amara should have known. It was a Saturday morning. Hana and Mira were playing in their room. Min-seok was making coffee. Amara was setting the table for breakfast. Normal, domestic, beautiful. And then June burst through the door. His face was pale. "Sir, we have a problem." Min-seok's entire demeanor shifted instantly. "What kind of problem?" "Your brother." The coffee mug in Min-seok's hand shattered on the floor. Amara spun around. "Your what?" Min-seok's jaw was clenched so tight she thought it might crack. "I don't have a brother." "You do now." June's voice was grim. "He's downstairs. And he's not alone." Amara had never seen Min-seok look scared. But standing in the elevator, descending to the lobby, his hands were shaking. "Who is he?" she whispered. "Someone I thought was dead." His voice was hollow. "Someone who should be." The elevator doors opened. And there, standing in the middle of the marble lobby surrounded by armed men, was a man who looked almost exactly like Min-seok. Same sharp jawline, same dark eyes, same presence. But where Min-seok's eyes held warmth, especially when he looked at his daughters, this man's eyes were empty, cold, predatory. "Little brother," the man said, his voice smooth and mocking. "Long time no see." Min-seok stepped forward, positioning himself between the stranger and Amara. "What do you want, Jiho?" "What I've always wanted." Jiho smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "What's mine?" "You gave up your claim when you disappeared." "I didn't disappear. I was building." Jiho's gaze slid past Min-seok to Amara, and his smile widened. "And from what I hear, you've been building too. A family. How quaint." Min-seok's entire body went rigid. "Stay away from them." "Or what?" Jiho took a step forward. "You'll kill me? Your own blood?" "If I have to." The tension in the room was suffocating. Jiho laughed. "Always so dramatic, Min-seok. I'm not here to hurt your little family. I'm here to make you an offer." "I'm not interested." "You will be." Jiho pulled out a folder and tossed it on the floor between them. "Your empire is crumbling, little brother. You've been so focused on playing house that you didn't notice the wolves circling. Your allies are abandoning you. Your enemies are organizing. And without me, you'll lose everything." Min-seok's hands clenched into fists. "I don't need you." "Yes, you do." Jiho's expression turned serious. "Work with me, rebuild what our father started, rule together, or watch everything you've built burn. Get out. Think about it." Jiho gestured to his men, and they started moving toward the door. But before he left, he looked back at Amara one more time. "Beautiful family you have, brother. It would be a shame if something happened to them." Min-seok moved so fast Amara didn't even see it. 1 second he was standing still. The next, he had Jiho slammed against the wall, his forearm pressed against his throat. "Threaten them again," Min-seok said quietly. "And brother or not, I will end you." Jiho just smiled. "There he is. The monster I remember." Min-seok released him and stepped back, his chest heaving. Jiho straightened his jacket, still smiling. "You have 1 week to decide. Work with me or lose everything." Then he left. And the silence that followed was deafening. Amara couldn't stop shaking. They were back in the penthouse. The girls were still playing, completely unaware of what had just happened. Min-seok sat on the couch, his head in his hands. "Who is he?" Amara asked quietly. "My half-brother." Min-seok's voice was muffled. "Our father had an affair. Jiho was the result. He was older than me by 3 years, and he hated me for being legitimate, for being the heir. You said you thought he was dead. He was supposed to be." Min-seok looked up, and his eyes were haunted. "There was a fight. Years ago. Before I met you. He tried to kill me. I fought back. The last time I saw him, he was bleeding out in an alley. I thought it was over." Amara sat down beside him. "And now he's back. And now he's back." Min-seok's voice was bitter. "And he's right. I've been so focused on you and the girls that I didn't see this coming. My empire is crumbling. My allies are leaving. And if I don't do something, we'll lose everything. So what do we do?" He looked at her, and for the first time, she saw real fear in his eyes. "I don't know." That night, Amara couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about Jiho's words. It would be a shame if something happened to them. She thought about Hana and Mira, sleeping peacefully in the next room, completely unaware of the danger they were in. She thought about Min Seok, trying so hard to be a better man, only to have his past come crashing back. And she thought about herself. Had she made the right choice? Staying? Believing he could change? Or had she just put her daughters in more danger? The next morning, Min Seok was gone again. Amara found a note on the kitchen counter. "I'm fixing this, I promise." But hours passed, then a full day, and he didn't come back. June refused to tell her where he was. He's handling it. Handling what? What he has to. Amara's stomach twisted with dread. What if Jiho had gotten to him? What if something had happened? What if... The elevator doors opened. Min Seok walked in, but he looked different. Harder. Colder. Like the man she'd met 6 years ago. Min Seok? Her voice was small. He looked at her, and his expression was unreadable. "Pack your things. You and the girls are leaving." Her heart stopped. "What? It's not safe here anymore." His voice was flat, emotionless. "I'm sending you somewhere Jiho can't find you." "No." She shook her head. "No, we're not leaving. We're staying with you. This isn't up for discussion." "Yes, it is." She grabbed his arm. "You promised. You promised you wouldn't disappear. You promised you'd let us help. I can't protect you if you're here." His voice cracked just slightly. "Amara, please, just trust me. Let me keep you safe." Tears streamed down her face. "By sending us away? If that's what it takes." She stared at him, her heart breaking. "What happened to choosing us?" "I am choosing you." He cupped her face, his hands trembling. "I'm choosing your safety, even if it means losing you." "Min Seok, please." His voice was raw, desperate. "Please, just go." And Amara realized, with a sickening clarity, that she had two choices: stay and risk her daughters' lives, or leave and break all their hearts. Amara stood in the middle of the penthouse, her world crumbling. Behind her, Hana and Mira were asking what was wrong. In front of her, Min Seok was waiting for her answer. And somewhere in the shadows, Jiho was watching, waiting, planning. She closed her eyes and made her choice.
If you made it to the end, you already understand this isn't just another story. What you watched here is only a fragment. The full experience lives in 20 complete audio episodes, carefully told, with every detail, every emotion, every turning point. There are no ads, no interruptions, and nothing was removed like it is on YouTube. You can listen anytime on your phone with total privacy, inside the members-only area. Scan the QR code on your screen now, or tap the link in the pinned comment to unlock the full story and continue listening immediately.